At the Nebraska Ag Expo at the Lancaster Event Center in Lincoln, there was a session at the Expo EDU stage on the next Farm Bill. And presenting on that, former Senator and former Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Johanns. Mike, thanks for joining us. First of all, you spent time on the 3 Ps of the next Farm Bill, the people, the politics, and the policies of the next Farm Bill. Tell me about how this last election, the results of that, which we fully know with the runoff in Georgia, how is that going to affect who are the players in the next Farm Bill?
It makes all the difference in the world. So the House, by a very, very slim margin now, is Republican. So they're going to draft their own Farm Bill. No question about it. On the Senate side, it stayed Democrat. In fact, Democrats picked up 1 seat. So they will draft a Farm Bill. But in the end, both sides know that the only way a Farm Bill is going to get done is if it's bipartisan. You can't pass a Republican Farm Bill. You can't pass a Democrat Farm Bill. It's truly going to have to be a collaborative effort when it's all said and done.
What about the leaders in both the House and the Senate? There are some that you had worked with in the past as you worked and helped craft some farm bills. What do we know about the leaders in both the House and the Senate?
On the Senate side, it'll be Debbie Stabenow, and she's great. I mean, she was chair when I was there. She was chair during the last Farm Bill. She knows her way around. So she's very good, and she knows she has to work with Republicans. The ranking member on the Senate Ag Committee is a gentleman by the name of John Bozeman. John's a good friend. He's based in Arkansas. That's where he comes from. So as I said in my comments, John will take care of southern crops, but he knows also to get a Farm Bill done, got to get 60 votes. That means it's going to have to be a bipartisan bill. On the House side, change. We go from Democrats in majority to now Republicans. So it'll be a gentleman by the name of Thompson out of Pennsylvania. He will be the chair of the House Ag Committee, and then the former chair, I believe, will become the ranking member.
Let's talk about the policy of the next Farm Bill. As you look at what will the substance be of the next Farm Bill, at least what you think or what you gather, is it going to be revolutionary, or will there just be some updates in nature?
I think it's going to be more evolutionary. I don't think you're going to see a tear up the old Farm Bill and start fresh sort of approach. A lot of programs are working well. Crop insurance would be a perfect example. There are some things that need to be fixed in crop insurance, but having said that, it's a program that farmers are used to, and it has worked well. Here's the battleground, though, and not a lot of people are connected to this, but about 84% of the spending in the Farm Bill isn't for farm programs or conservation. It's actually for nutrition, and most of that goes into what used to be the food stamp program, now the SNAP program. And Democrats won't want to give up on any of that. So I'm just telling everybody that's where the arm wrestling is going to occur until they figure out the path forward.
Now, there are some things that are being talked about in agriculture these days, like regenerative agriculture, and how does the Farm Bill connect with some sustainability or climate change goals? Do you think that's going to be played out in the next Farm Bill?
Yeah, and again, I don't want this to sound like I'm being hyper partisan here, but the reality is Democrats tend to favor strings attached to conservation that would have a positive impact on climate change type issues. Republicans are much more reluctant. Again, I don't see major changes here. I think you'll hear a lot of talk and a lot of debate about it, but in the end, I think you'll see kind of our standard programs.
And now let's talk about the politics, because we know getting things through both houses of Congress and to the president's desk has been difficult in the last few years. So how are the politics setting up in the new Congress?
Well, let's start with the House side. The House side is now Republican, but by a very, very slim majority, by a handful of votes. There will be a temptation to pass that Republican bill. Maybe they cut back on spending for nutrition, etc. But that won't pass in the Senate. The Senate is very evenly divided. There'll be 51 Democrats to 49 Republicans. So the majority is with Democrats, but to pass this kind of bill, you need 60 votes. So that means you've got to get Republicans and Democrats voting together. So too radical a farm bill on the House side won't pass. Too radical a farm bill on the Senate side won't pass. That's why I think there's going to be a continuing effort to try to find out where is the sweet spot, where can we get this done.
There are 5 individuals from Nebraska that are elected to represent the state federally in Washington, D.C. How is the representation from Nebraska and to a greater extent maybe the Midwest in crafting the next farm bill?
You know, our House members and our senators, they'll play a huge role. I mean, they're from a major ag state, but if I were going to highlight someone, a couple of people, Deb Fisher's just got so much experience, so much credibility. She's got this huge ag pedigree. I mean, when she speaks, people listen because that is her background. She comes from ranch country, and so she speaks with tremendous amount of authority. She's on the ag committee. She'll have influence. And then on the House side, I think all 3 members, even the newest member, Congressman Flood, are going to have influence, no doubt about it. But I would single out Adrian Smith, Don Bacon. They are powerful forces on this kind of debate, so no question about it. The Nebraska delegation will have influence on this farm bill. And then at some point we'll find out who the new senator is. Believe me, they're going to get thrown in the middle of this very quickly.
Just as we wrap up, final thoughts, I guess. What are the takeaways about the crafting of the next farm bill with the new Congress? What are keys that you want to make sure people, watch and kind of understand as this process unfolds?
Here's what I'd tell people to pay attention to. Pay attention to the debates on the nutrition title, that big chunk of spending that occurs in the farm bill, about 84%. If agreement is reached on that, I think there's very definitely a pathway to get a farm bill done. If they can't get agreement on that, then chances of getting a farm bill this year get less and less. So that's a really important one to pay attention to. I also tell people to pay a lot of attention to how far they push the conservation title to try to tie it to performance relative to some kind of climate change initiative. That's not going to be well received in farm country or ranch country, so that's one people will want to pay attention to. In the end, whether it's this year or next, I do believe a farm bill will get done because it's just so important to our country. I mean, we need to eat. You need to get a farm bill done.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it very much. Again, Mike Johanns, former senator, former secretary of agriculture, was on hand in Lincoln at the Nebraska Ag Expo, giving folks an opportunity to hear at least his perspective on how the farm bill discussion is going to unfold come in 2023. Chad Moyer reporting.